Welcome to the channel. Today we are going to learn about a topic that is very distinctive in nature. Its name is antifragility. So let's begin. Antifragility, things that gain from disorder. Let's learn some basic things about the concept. Antifragility is a property of systems that increase in capability to thrive as a result of stressors, shocks, volatility, noise, mistakes, faults, attacks, or failures. It is a concept developed by Professor Nassim Nicholas Taleb in his book, Antifragile. As Taleb explains in his book, antifragility is fundamentally different from the concepts of resiliency and robustness. The concept has been applied in risk analysis, physics, molecular biology, transportation planning, engineering, and even in computer science. The author, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, is a statistician and investigates problems of randomness and uncertainty. He argues that some systems thrive when exposed to shocks and crisis, instead of breaking under their pressure. We all know the label on boxes with glass inside them that reads, fragile. Handle with care, you know that fragile things break when you shock them and toss them around. But antifragile describes things that benefit from shock and thrive in volatile environments, because as they're stressed and put under pressure, they get better, not worse. Can you think of an example? Evolution itself is incredibly antifragile. We've evolved from our ancestors based on the genetic features and traits which helped us survive the most and succeed. However, that also meant many humans before us had to die. Any individual specimen of a species is usually fragile, but, because the system can use life and death as indicators of success and failure, the evolution of species in itself is antifragile. Thus, success and failure of these parts serves as important feedback for the system as a whole, and allows it to get better in chaotic circumstances, and in the process making them antifragile. Taleb continuously emphasizes on the importance of stressors in any system's environment. The organic system communicates with the environment via stressors, so removing stressors is removing vital information. For example, when an individual goes out in sun, he gets darker. It's not his brain that tells him he needs sun protection, but the environment gives a signal by burning him. Crucially, if antifragility is the property of all those natural and complex systems that have survived, depriving these systems of volatility, randomness, and stressors will harm them. They will weaken, die, or blow up. We have been fragilizing our organizations by introducing all the complex systems and procedures. This only leads to complex work processes and fragility at the time of any unprecedented event. Furthermore, in the case of being antifragile, organization builds redundancy in order to prepare for future extreme situations and emergencies. That's how stress can prepare an entity for even bigger stress, and it's building this extra capacity that lies at the core of why being antifragile is so helpful to thrive in critical situations. Just like while lifting weights, when you feel burn, fragile parts, the tissue in your muscles, is broken down. Thus, the failure is reported to the system. In order to ensure future success, your body now overcompensates for this shock by building extra capacity to handle even bigger shocks better. Overnight, as you sleep and recover, your muscles are rebuilt and they're now a bit stronger than before. In his book, Taleb stresses the differences between antifragile and robust or resilient. Antifragility is beyond resilience or robustness. The resilient resists shocks and stays the same, the antifragile gets better. Many organizations have been working on building a resiliency in their business operations, while the need is to make their operations antifragile. Antifragile things loves randomness and invites uncertainty. By making organizations antifragile, businesses can ensure that any opportunity that arises at the time of crisis is fully exploited and used in advantage of the organization. Further, it is far easier to figure out if something is fragile than to predict the occurrence of an event that may harm it. Fragility can be measured, risk is not measurable. This provides a solution to what Taleb calls the black swan problem. That means the impossibility of calculating the risks of consequential rare events and predicting their occurrence. Thus, sensitivity to harm from volatility is tractable, more so than forecasting the event that would cause the harm. Antifragile systems are more than adaptive, they actually become better when stressed. Using advanced digital technologies like AI, Cloud automation gives them the ability to adapt, improve, and to respond to the unpredictable, including random events, unexpected disruptions, and unplanned changes in business models. Digital technologies help lay the foundation for companies to build an anti-fragile system, thus helping them to go beyond resiliency and be ready to respond to new opportunities and growth in every environment. Further, these following 3 practices can help companies to come closer to being called anti-fragile. First one is self-management. It means using a well-defined set of processes. Every employee can basically make any decision, including to spend company money. There should be no organizational top and no top-down strategy. Things can happen organically. Every person in the organization is truly empowered to act upon needs he or she identified, and can make decisions accordingly. This practice creates way more creative tinkering. People who have an idea can implement it, and don't depend on the agreement of several managers along the hierarchy. It reduces political considerations to a minimum, decisions are made quicker. These type of organizations are well better equipped to create many small-scale experiments with lots of upside and little downside. The second is wholeness. This concept describes that people can come to work as the person they are, without having to wear a professional mask. Some of the organizations can use active practices to strengthen this, while some companies' processes can create it as a byproduct. Either way, wholeness reduces the amount of ego-driven behavior at work, and allows people to bring more of themselves to the office. This practice creates psychological ownership at an organization, when you personally relate to it. When employees care for the people in an organization, it's way easier for them to care for the organization as a whole. This in turn increases their alignment with the organizational interest. Hence, employees together can create a system, where their companies can exceed its target of resiliency and become anti-fragile. The third one is evolutionary purpose. This practice insists organizations to use methods that follow another logic. That is, sense and respond. As the organizations are run as an ecosystem, rather than a machine, they become good at reacting to inside or outside stimuli, and constantly adapt. Organizations that are run with the idea of evolutionary purpose in mind, are less prone to fragility, because they don't rely on forecasting as much, while forecasting in theory, when being accurate, would be a good tool for decision making, it has often become a safety bond for decision makers. Hence, depriving organizations from responding aggressively, and missing out on opportunities. Thus, by implementing these practices, you can make your organizations an ever-evolving ecosystem, while ensuring that it organically creates a lot of tinkering, in turn making it more prone to benefit from positive black swan events, and becoming anti-fragile. Under COVID-19, a lack of resilience has become an even more urgent issue, as organizations race to adapt to their new world, and survive the economic downturn. COVID-19 has been a classical black swan event, both unpredictable and devastating in its impact. Besides the thousands of lives lost, and societies dislocated, it has disrupted companies, and the people who work there. So let's look at how you can use the concept of antifragility to fight, and gain from this pandemic. First, let's talk about whether COVID-19 is black swan, or a white swan event. Black swan event is an unpredictable event, that is beyond what is normally expected of a situation, and has potentially severe consequences. These are characterized by their extreme rarity, and their severe impact. On the other hand, white swan event is an event, that is certain to occur at some point. Such pandemics are inevitable, they come as a result of the structure of the modern world. As per Taleb, COVID-19 is clearly a white swan event. He argues pandemics have occurred again, and again throughout human history, which is why it is white swans that need to be prepared for. Thus, after the outbreak of SARS, Ebola, and other similar viruses, the organizations who were not prepared for such a crisis, are at fault of no one but their own. Moving forward, to prepare for any similar future event, we need to learn from this one. We have to consider what companies are doing in the face of the crisis. We are rapidly distributing work. As millions of employees work from home, and are decentralizing decision making, to make this work. We are using technology like Zoom, Slack, and Microsoft Teams extensively for collaboration, and therefore creating a distributed ecosystem, rather than centralized office work and decision making. We are tolerating small mistake, and large inefficiencies as long as they allow for business continuity and the larger goal to be achieved. It is distributed, bottoms up, and not necessarily the most efficient, but it is more anti-fragile. If we can learn some of these lessons as this crisis gets over, we have a great chance of inoculating our businesses against future shocks. As an example, we can move to perhaps 3 days of work from office and 2 days of work from home. We will have our entire workforce trained for this practice, and we will save costs on office space and keep the roads clearer and the air cleaner. In light of the crisis, there is urgent need for organizations to gain antifragility in operations. An organic system can be called antifragile if it encompasses the following. First, a network comprising independent but interconnected cells such as business units, departments, people, manufacturing unit, etc. Second, presence of diverse cells which helps in developing unique characteristics, as opposed to identical cells. Third, a distribution system. The organization should be such that even if one cell is lost, the system continues to function as a whole. Having backups for critical units may seem inefficient, yet it is essential to be antifragile. Fourth, regeneration. If at all in a system, cells are damaged, new cells can be created from time to time. The system should always encourage tinkering instead of going for an all-out solution. Thus, black swan events are unpredictable, but every such event opens a plethora of opportunity for those that are strategically ready to thrive under chaos. The pandemic is a real testament to organizations for their survival. While many are succumbing to the economic impact caused by the COVID-19, there are a handful number of organizations that are making a substantial gain out of the adversity. For example, brands such as Zoom, Citrix, Geo, have reported an increase in revenue and quarterly earnings as the world chooses to stay connected remotely. Similarly, several pharmaceutical companies are on a path to make good profit. The companies that are anti-fragile now were perhaps not intentionally designed or built to be one, but they possess the right products and services at the right time. Other organizations such as Microsoft and Amazon are partially anti-fragile, with an increase in demand for remote connectivity, upscaling the cloud infrastructure, and sales of essential commodities. Having one or more products that are anti-fragile in times such as pandemic is proving to be beneficial. Even if 10 fragile products take the hit, one or more anti-fragile products can compensate for the losses. However, the gain could be momentary, as demands decline over time as the pandemic settles. At the end, we have a choice to make, whether to go back to life and business as usual after the crisis is over, or learn from it and prepare ourselves and our companies for the next big one. We will be well served if we consider the COVID-19 event as akin to a vaccine, hence, to build antibodies and immunize ourselves against the much bigger calamities that perhaps awaits us. Please leave a like and subscribe the channel if you want more contents like this in the future.